Hey guys, it's Alex with Hammond Watch. I'm here today with the Orient Stingray. It's a reference FEM7K00BW9. And this is a watch I really wasn't familiar with. I just happened to be flipping through some sale listings and saw it for what I would consider extremely cheap. Made an even lower offer and am pretty happy with the purchase. The first thing you notice with the watch is its sizing. It's a little bigger than it might look in photos. You have a 42 millimeter case, and if you go from 9 to 3 o'clock and include these pusher guards, you're looking at 43.5 millimeters, so a pretty large footprint. To combat that, they did a pretty good job of keeping the profile slim at 11.7 millimeters. You have a nice unsigned crown at 6 millimeters wide. It's got nice gripping. It's not screwed down and just push or pull. And then you have a pusher here at 3 o'clock. It's roughly 3 millimeters, and what this does is it operates your day complication rather. But we'll get into that as we kind of go over the movement. The lug spacing is a nice traditional 22 millimeters, so no issues with strap changes, but putting a 22 millimeter strap certainly adds just a little bit of bulk to the watch. So if you're looking for something that's kind of an everyday piece with a little bit more size, this may fit the bill for you. So I really like the finishing on this case, especially at the price. You have a nice polished fixed bezel, then radial brushing on the top of the case and lugs. As you move to the side of the watch, you've got a nice vertical brushing, and I always think it looks sharp. You bring the two brush angles to a nice meeting point right at the edge of the case. You also have polishing in the recesses, so around the date pusher as well as in between the lugs, it's nice and polished out, as is the entire case back. This is usually just for comfort. I mean, it's a lot easier to make a polished case back feel nice on your wrist than it is going with a brushing or a bead finish. You'll also see it does have a display case back. Behind this mineral crystal, you can see the caliber 48743. There's not a lot of published accuracy information out there, but this one's running at about minus 12 seconds a day, and you're getting about a 40-hour power reserve. While the 48743 is a pretty robust movement, it doesn't have some of those creature comforts. This was kind of the base workhorse of its time, so you don't get any hacking or hand winding. The crown spins freely, but it's not engaging the movement. And then as you pull out to set your time, you'll notice that the seconds continue to tick. It's not a huge deal, it just doesn't allow you to be quite as precise. Moving back to the first click position, you'll notice it's operating the date wheel, and then at 3 o'clock is the pusher that will allow you to change between days of the week, as well as within languages. So while not perfect, I do think this watch has a really handsome dial. I like the shape of the indices, the printing of the frames around the day and date windows. Orient, automatic, and water resistant is all very crisp. You have a nice little applied dual lion Orient logo at 12. The only thing I don't care for, and I guess there's two parts to this. The first is that there's too many variations of the color white. You've got a flat white seconds, minutes ring around the outer edge of the watch. Then the dial itself is a silvery white, but almost has like a green hue to it. The indices kind of match, I guess, the outer minutes track, but then the hands are a different shade as well. So I don't know if part of that is to maintain some contrast and allow for a little more legibility, but in having so much of the same color and none of it really match up, it's kind of a letdown in person. Also, it doesn't bother me a great deal, but there's not a lot of balance on the dial. Having a full index at 9 o'clock with the day and then the date kind of having this shrunken in index at 3 o'clock creates kind of a lopsided feel. Now I understand that to have the two date wheels, they have to be offset from each other. They can't occupy the same space. It's just something worth noting. So the Lume application isn't the best. Now, I don't do a blacked out room, and I don't do a real heavy charge or anything on these. I want to get a good idea of what it's actually going to be like, and the glow is adequate once you kind of initially enter like a dark space, but it fades pretty quickly. I'm not sure if like through a sunset you're still going to have much visibility once it's completely dark. So here we are in my 7.5 to 7.75 inch wrist. That 48mm lug-to-lug does a nice job of keeping the watch from feeling oversized, but the 44mm width and 22mm strap means it feels really planted. It doesn't sit up high, so a nice low center of gravity, and this would be a great everyday piece. The strap itself, I didn't touch on it earlier. This is an aftermarket replacement. Nothing special, just kind of a cheap swap in. This watch comes on a flat black leather strap, which I don't think does it any favors aesthetically. That said, it is a pretty versatile piece. I think you could go with an alligator crocodile grain to dress it up a little bit. I also think something like this would look wonderful on like a khaki or a green NATO, just to make it a little bit more casual. But either way, a pretty strong everyday piece. So tracking one of these down for sale might be a little bit tricky. I looked around through kind of the typical gray market dealers and didn't really see any. Everywhere was kind of out of stock, including on Amazon, where these sold for just under $100. Creation sold them for $90 before they sold out. And now the only place I see them is on eBay, kind of in that $130 to $170 range. No hacking or hand winding, no real water resistance and mineral crystals. I don't know if I would bite in that like kind of 150 range. But if you keep your eye out, there are deals to be had. This one popped up for sale. I think it was listed at 75 bucks. I made an offer, and after tax and shipping was able to get it to the door for about 61 bucks. And for that price, I think it's a pretty exceptional watch. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. If you have, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up. It really helps out a lot in YouTube's algorithm. Also consider subscribing. Putting out watch content weekly, and I hope to see you in the next one.